The Kerbylon project was a dream given form. Its mission, to slip the surly bonds of Kerbal, to explore outer space, to reach for the horizon, to seek to strive, to never fall, to not go quietly into that good night. This is the Kerbylon project.
Hello and welcome back to the Kerbylon project. Well, it's finally here. Release version 0.18. Now, I've not been doing much Kerbal space program recently because I was getting a bit ambitious and I wanted to do really complex deep space missions and stuff. And the mod I was using for docking really didn't work. You could dock your spaceships, but then if you switched away from them and switched back, they would suddenly fly apart at close to the speed of light and just be whizzing out into interstellar space. Essentially, when you would switch into the docked spaceships, it would try and load them, and they would just impart massive velocity on each other, some form of mistake with the programming. Anyway, docking is now a standard part of the game, which is brilliant, and the way they've done it is really good, in that when two spaceships dock, as far as the game is concerned, they've merged into a single entity. Now that means you don't get any problems with collisions or velocity or stuff like that. There is so many new additions to this game now. I was watching their 16-hour live stream yesterday. Well, I watched most of it. I gave up about 3 AM thinking they're never going to release the new version. Went to sleep, woke up, and lo and behold, they had released it. They probably waited until right at the end and then said, oh yes, okay, here, you can have it. But anyway, they're calling this Sandbox Complete. They're not calling it like it's out of alpha or anything like that. They're calling it Sandbox Complete. Now, what they mean by that is that they've got all the programming framework is now in there to enable them to actually start developing gameplay, what they call career mode. Now, that's when you're actually going to start having budgets and research and discovery and so on. I'm so looking forward to that. But the fact that this is now Sandbox Complete means that there's been quite a few additions to this game. So let's check them out a bit. Now, because of these new additions, I've had to wipe my save game, so moon or bust. And it does have two little dots above it. So I don't think if I click resume saved, yep, there's nothing in there. Training is just orbiting into the moon. Oh, there's some scenarios. An EVA. These are just saved states, I think, that you can go in and do stuff for. They were there before. Let's start a new one. And you can see we've got, the career mode option it's not active yet, but it will be soon, and that's when this is going to really get good. A game with that name already exists. Do you want to overwrite it? Yes. Now, straight away, there is sound effects everywhere now. We've got bird song when we're looking at this, which is just really good. There's not going to be anything in the tracking station because this is a brand new save. So let's just jump straight into the VAB and start, and we'll take a quick look at the new stuff. First of all, these are the cockpits that we're familiar with, but there's some new ones. There's a Mark II lander can. This cosy capsule seats 2 and is very lightweight. However, don't expect it to survive atmospheric entry or even a sneeze. So this essentially lets you do an Apollo-style lander with just the 2 Kerbals on board. And then we've got 3 robotic probe types. Now, this is all standard game. I've not installed any mods. I might install MacLeod once it updates. You know me. I need some help with the flying. So what these are is these let you do unmanned space probes, but they require electricity. Now you can see there it's got resources, electrocharge 5 of 5. Now that doesn't mean it's producing an electric charge, it means it's storing an electric charge. So essentially it's got a battery with an electric charge of 5 in it upon launch. But anytime you want to do anything with these craft, you want to tell them to maneuver, whatever, it's going to take electricity. And if it runs out of electricity, you can no longer control it. So that's a huge change to the game already. They've introduced a new fuel type sort of thing, electricity. So we've got 3 different probe bodies here, all with different masses. Probably for different words. This okay. Sturdy, cubic, and relatively lightweight probe core. It can survive higher heat loads than its counterparts. The Octo, excellent beginner's level core with simple geometry and lots of flat surfaces to attach equipment. And that's very light. And the Stay Putnik Mark II. Our most popular satellite cure, Stay Putnik, is a simple lightweight sphere constructed of aluminium with lots of surface area for attaching things. That's 0.05, so that's the lightest one they do. So I need to select one of these just like as a start. So I'm going to select the Mark II lander can, just so we can start to see the rest of the new parts in here. Now, hopefully this isn't too small for you to see. Now, one addition is we can still add pods. So you can straight away now construct craft with multiple cockpits, and using the docking systems you can actually construct them pre-docked, launch them, and then separate once you're in space. So, for example, this thing could just have an unmanned probe attached to it, and at any point you could detach that unmanned probe and it can go off and do its own thing. Which is just awesome sauce. It really is. So, this is the propulsion tab. This is all smaller than it used to be, isn't it? Tell me whether or not you can still read this, because I can turn the UI, not turn it up. I can make the UI larger in settings, if need be. So this is propulsion, and straight away we've got things like the fuel ducts are now showing up here in propulsion. So we have the fuel tanks, we have jet engines, and there's some new ones there, including a new type of engine. That's the atomic rocket motor. Propellant tanks. That pop-up comes up a bit too quickly. There's no additional pages, so the new engine type that I want to show you must be here somewhere. Can't seem to find it. What I'm looking for is there's a new ion engine. Now what the ion engine is it uses an inert gas and electricity to create a propellant. Now it's very low thrust, but it's very, very high efficiency because it just needs electricity, which you generate with solar panels. Yes, they've added solar panels. They've also added, well, if we go to control, constructional, aero, utility. Yep, so we've got various different sizes of photovoltaic panels, or solar panels, as they're more commonly known. But you can also have things like nuclear heat electrical generators, which is actually something which they use on actual space things. There it is, radioisotope thermoelectric generator. Essentially there's a bit of radioactive material in there which constantly generates heat, and you use the heat to generate electricity. You can also put batteries in, which means you can store electric charge, because if the craft you're in is using solar panels and it goes into the dark side of a planet, then they stop generating electricity. So if you want your unmanned probe or even your normal spaceship to be able to keep doing stuff, then you need a battery backup, because I believe things like SAS modules and so on, I think they either already need electricity or they will need electricity soon. That basically it's just going to be a tweak that they're going to add to the game. Loads of new structural stuff. This is where you get the multi-point port connectors. I wonder where the docking ports are. But you also you just got these. Oh, that's tiny. That's slightly bigger. That's the same one. Yeah, so basically there are just these structural components which you can essentially just construct shapes however you want and stick whatever you want on there, which is perfect for space stations. Ah, this is the ion electric propulsion system. It's here under utility. So it's quite a small engine. It doesn't weigh much. As I said, it doesn't have much thrust. Engine max power 0.5. Now, to put that into perspective, you know, the normal sort of rockets we're using have got like maximum powers of 200. So yeah, it's not very zippy, but its ISP, which is essentially a rating of its fuel efficiency, is 4,200. And again, to put that into perspective, to compare it to the one I just looked at, it has an ISP of 370. So hugely efficient, hugely efficient. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to read through all this. Oh yes, also we've got actual scientific now. We've got a communitron high gain antenna, allows long range high speed communications. Now I don't know if this has an effect yet, like if I've got an unmanned probe and it gets too far without a communitron, will I stop being able to control it? Dunno. Probably at some point in the game, yes, maybe not now. We've got another communitron. Okay, we've got an accelerometer. So we can measure local acceleration of the spacecraft. So it can tell us the gravity of a planet and stuff like that. We have a barometer for measuring atmospheric pressure. We have a gravioli detector, which actually measures the strength of gravitational fields, and a thermometer for measuring temperature. Now, there's already a very simple plugin which lets you plot the output of these sensors on a graph. So if you want, you can do aerobraking maneuvers and so on, and actually pick up stuff. Work out stuff if you want. So I'm going to read through all this, and then we're going to design ourselves our first spacecraft, and let's see if we can have some fun. Okay, well, I have reviewed all the parts, and it's actually quite exciting to have so much new stuff. So, considering the fact that docking is now a standard part of the game, and the other thing that I haven't mentioned is that when ships are docked, you can actually transfer fuel between the ships. I think it's time, let's actually properly construct our space station. So what we're going to do is we are going to try and build the Kerbylon station. And the idea of this is it will have a few habitation places, it'll have large fuel tanks, and the idea is that I can send up ships piecemeal. So, like, I can send up ships with just fuel to keep the Kerbylon station tanked up with fuel, and then the Kerbylon station will act as a refueling station for other ships. So, for example, I could send a ship to the moon, and it could land, take off, return to the Kerbylon station, refuel, and then it could go off to Minmus. I could also construct larger interplanetary missions by sending up, because if you remember that design I had, which was just too large to get into space and it wouldn't even sit on the launch pad, well, it could now, if I construct it in parts which then dock together, again, they can all just go up to the Kerbylon station, make sure they're fully refueled, connect together, and then blast off. So the possibilities are quite good. So what I want to do here is design the beginnings of the Kerbylon station. So it will have minimal crew, minimal stuff, but plenty of connecting points that I can then connect other stuff to later. So rather than going with one of these command pods and so on, because this is a space station, I'm going to use the Mark II lander can. Oops, didn't mean to grab that. because that way this can just be in the middle of the stack. Now this thing has a capacity for 2 Kerbals. So one thing I discovered under utility was this hitchhiker storage container. Now this has a capacity for 4 Kerbals. Now I don't think it will start with the Kerbals, but what this means is that if I send up refueling missions, then there can be Kerbals that that go up with the refueling missions. What is that on the back there? Oh, it's a window. There can be Kerbals that go up with the refueling missions, and then extra ones can stay here. And that means that I can even have spare crew there if I need them. So this is going to be the start of it. So I need to get this into space with the stuff it needs. So let's design this as best we can. Here is the core of my Kerbylon station. Now, it's possible this is a bit too big to get into orbit. If it is, then I'll simply get it into orbit in 2 parts. But I'm going to try and launch the whole thing to start with. Okay, so first of all, in the centre we've got this hub with 4 docking ports. This will allow me to extend the space station. And what I'm thinking is going to come out from there is going to be I'll dock in fuel tanks with their own docking ports, and that will be where the actual refueling will happen. We have 2 of these Mark II tin can things, so there's going to be 4 Kerbylons on board, and we have 2 of these hitchhiker bays, pods, so there'll be capacity to hold an extra 8 Kerbals. We then have plenty of RCS fuel, because this thing can refuel RCS fuel to people as well. Then it's got its own supply of fuel, and its own rocket. Now for the rocket there, I chose the one that had a strength of 220 because this thing's probably quite a bit of weight to push, and it's the highest efficiency. So I'm hoping that if the launch stage can get this into orbit properly, then that will be good enough to circularize and do any orbital maneuvers and so on which are needed. It has 4 SAS modules around the central ring and another 4 up there, and an advanced SAS module and a battery pack, so this thing can store plenty of electricity. It has 8 of these large solar panels. Now I'm just going to add some scientific equipment to it. I'm trying to decide whether or not I should bother adding an ion engine. The ion propulsion system is very low thrust. I mean, I could use them just like station keeping for tiny orbital corrections and so on. And it is quite small, so I might try and fit some of those. And it would need its fuel as well. Xenon container. See, you know, this is a very small thing to add, and I don't think it will increase the mass much. So I'm going to add that, and then I'll try and add a launch stage to see whether or not we can get this basic thing into orbit. Again, it might have to go in 2 parts. And looking at it, it does have sort of 2 distinct parts to it. So here's a little annoying bug that I've just discovered. If I click resume save, you'll see there isn't one there called Ayaron. So it turns out that if you start a new game, go to the vehicle assembly building, save your ship, and then exit the game without ever going to the launch pad, it doesn't actually save anything. And when you come back in and try and resume saved, it's not there. So I'm going to have to start again. So this time, you know, I went to the Kerbylon project, and I just, thinking this might be the case, you know, I was just guessing that maybe for some reason if you never make it out into the actual persistent world, it never bothers. So I just stuck something here on the launch pad. And now the save game exists, and I appear to be able to resume. So I'm hoping that end flight, that now when I build my thing and save it, it will actually save. It doesn't mean I'm going to have to start again. I'm going to take this opportunity to give it a slight redesign, because I think what I was trying to build there was too big. So I'm going to actually, you know, go with the modular design and probably send up two the same, which will click together to become the core. Okay, I finally rebuilt it. So as you can see, this is a single section. We have docking stations at both ends. We have 4 radial engines to allow it to do orbital maneuvering and so on, and they're positioned so they're out the way of anything which may dock there later. Now, there's something called control action groups, which lets you customize what happens when you press the buttons, the numbers 1 to 0, 1 to 10. So I've got number 1 to toggle my solar panels open and closed. Number 2 will toggle all the scientific instrumentation, and 3 will turn these rockets on and off. Now that's quite important, because obviously once you've got other stuff docked in and so on, you probably want to turn those off for most of them. So for this one they'll stay on, but when I launch other versions of this and sort of dock out my radial 6-way base hub, I'll deactivate the rockets on all the others, and that way, you know, we won't be shooting off, you know, shooting in all directions. Simple onion design. So I've got large rockets at the bottom. These tanks feed into these tanks, which feed into those tanks, which feed into the center tanks, and that's mirror image on the other side. So as I go up, I can start dropping excess weight as I go. So I've done a very basic test flight just to see whether or not this thing had the power to get off the ground and so on. But now I want to get this thing into a nice, I think 100k orbit is about right. I don't want it to be too high, because that will be a waste of fuel for stuff to get up there and refuel. But it also doesn't want to be too low. So I think 100k is about right. So let's... yeah, clearing the launch pad. As I said, I was doing a few test flights. Let's see whether or not we can get this up there successfully. Oh, we have Bill and Jeb. Only 2 of them, of course, because this is the 2-man control capsule. So, delicate controls on, SAS on, throttle up, and stage. Now, the fuel is here, and this is all the fuel that's on board. If I click that, it will show just the fuel for the current stage. And the current stage is, of course, 2 of these side engines. So, we're going to go straight up for a while. Oh dear. Right, okay, okay, I've got to try and save their lives, otherwise they're goners. Turn on RCS fuel. Okay, point up, point up. Come on, turn up. I forgot that these engines overheat. Come on. I think these guys are goners, so this is probably the shortest career ever for Bill and Jeb. Sorry guys. I think we're going to get them out of the cloning vats, because I don't want to kill Jeb this quickly. That would just be silly. So if I hit restart flight, it will be as if that never happened. There we go. Right, now I have to remember that these engines overheat if I keep them on full thrust, so I don't want to have them on full thrust. Oh, I had delicate controls turned on, that's why I couldn't point it upwards. Right, okay, let's leave those off for the moment. Right, so I was so busy over here talking about the fuel that I forgot to pay attention to the overheat marker. That's the thing with these most powerful engines, is they produce an awful lot of thrust, but you've got to balance them against the overheat. Okay, that seems about good. I think they've got a better balance on the game sounds now. You know, the sound of these engines isn't overpowering. So, now we've got the overheat under control, we'll go straight up. About to lose the first set of engines, I think. So I'll just let those drop away. Now I'm going to start a very gentle roll to the 90 degrees. Just a few degrees. Don't want it to be too many, not while we're still in the thickest part of the atmosphere. I'm going to wait till this gets to the next phase before I start to tip over to about 45 degrees. Now we're not accelerating up fast yet. Oh, look, I've got an abort button. Lights, gears, brakes. There's all these new buttons. Docking mode. And an actual mouse control to get to the orbital map, if I want to. I want this set up so we can monitor our apoapsis when we get higher. I'm going to increase thrust a little, but I'll keep an eye on those overheat markers when I do. I think we're about to drop another stage. So we'll let those go. Throttle back a little bit. And we're in the thinner part of the atmosphere now, so let's tip over a bit more. Now this thing's picking up a bit of a spin here, which is a little annoying. See if I can counteract that. Not really. A little bit. Okay, so apoapsis is at 21,000. We're currently... Okay, we're starting to accelerate now. We're in the thinner part of the atmosphere. So let's see if we can kick this a little more. This is not the most efficient rocket, but there is a lot of weight on top of there. Okay, that's getting up to 31,000 and starting to spread nicely. Sounded like something blew up, but everything seems okay. Bill is cacking himself as usual, and Jeb is happy. One of the interesting things on the live stream that they did at KSP was they explained the psychological rules that affects the Kerbals a bit. And as a pilot, Jeb likes to go fast, and about the only thing which will upset him is explosions. That overheat's going up a bit too much, so... Oh, that's because I'm turning the throttle the wrong direction. There we go. Right. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, apoapsis really shooting up there. I want to keep it at about 100. So, let's tip ourselves over to the horizon. Okay, let's cut. See, we're still in a bit of atmosphere, so when I cut thrust, that might... Oh no, okay, we're in space. Space, we're in space. Space. Sorry. Okay, now one of the things they've added to this is the ability to add maneuver nodes. So, Apoapsis is a minute away, so if I click there, add maneuver node, I can then pretend to thrust in the direction of travel, and it was predicting what my orbit's going to be. So when I get that to 100,000 about, now that's gone up a bit too much, so can I 120, 125, 99, okay, that's going the wrong way. No, that's made it go all weird and wobbly. 90, 133. Now I can see here that I'm going to reach the node to burn in 41 seconds, so I know how much time I've got to play with this. 118, 87. Well, I think I just need to do this maneuver first, so get this to close to 100. This will get me in orbit pretty close, and it's time to burn. So, oops. Alright, turn RCS on. So, because I've set up a maneuver node, I need to point to this blue thing here. And then it counts down how long I need to burn for. Now, I don't want the rest of this stage to make it into orbit. So I want to drop it before it gets to the point where it's just going to go round and round forever. Now I left this a little late, unfortunately. Okay. Burn time estimate is a minute. Lose those. Oops, I mean, may as well lose that now because it blew up. Right, so we're just on our final stage. Ooh, did I leave this too late? Estimate burn time 30 seconds. This is at my current thrust. So we should at least make it to an orbit. Getting ready to cut thrust. Cut thrust when the maneuver node tells me, okay, the maneuver node's starting to go up again. What have we got? 105.77. So let's plan another maneuver node here. $280 what? 250. Ooh. My periaps there is a bit low. 77, 217. Ah, okay, I'm confusing myself now, but I think I do need to do this maneuver because otherwise I'm going to just smash into the atmosphere. 4-second burn time this way, apparently. So I'm actually thrusting away from the planet here, and that was in order to raise my periaps. So what have we got? 77, 217. Okay, so I actually want to bring that one down, don't I? So 55 seconds to periaps. Add maneuver. Retrograde burn. Because I want that to be 100. 127. 95 is a bit too much. 107. Okay, that's getting us closer. So, I mean, the advantage is that, you know, if you're fast enough and a little better organized than I am, you can, oh, there it was. You can do all this from this screen. Once you've set up your maneuver node. Alright, so I'm actually doing a retrograde burn here. Come on. 7 seconds, but it's only an estimated burn time of 1 second at maximum thrust. Right, what's that done? Apple Watch, this is 111. Okay, so now all I need to do is... First, it's a good idea to remove these maneuver nodes every time, otherwise you just confuse yourself because there's too much information. Okay, so that's at 111. So I just need to circularize this. So add a maneuver node at apoapps. Prograde, because we want to raise that to be 100. It's difficult to... Okay, there we go. That's 108. So that would be a bit too much. 107. Oops. 101. Okay. I'm relatively happy with that. You can see that it's 15 minutes away, and then once I've done that maneuver, then I want this one to change the apoapps here. So you can plan multiple moves ahead. Okay, now I can see which way round that was. .96. 107. Okay. 102. Maybe I can get this one a bit more accurate. See, I've got plenty of time now because, you know, I've got like 15 minutes until the next maneuver node. You want to be slightly less. 178. There we go. That's the maneuver I want to do. 100,644, 100,078. That will be within 500 meters of a nice circular orbit. And I think it means I won't have to do that maneuver node there, so I just have to catch that one. So, what I can do is, let's turn on the lights. Well, actually I won't yet. So you can see I'm almost pointing at the blue marker already. So let's turn on delicate controls. Let's turn off RCS. I want to get this as accurate as I can. There we go. Now, you can see at the moment that's sort of pointing down into the planet, but that's because this blue dot is not going to move as I go round this, as I go round the planet. So I can do a time acceleration, and you can see the horizon moves, my direction of travel moves, but that blue dot, which is the thing I need to burn towards, stays there. So you can set it up ahead of time. Which way around the planet am I going? This way. Okay, the blue dot is drifting ever so slightly, but I'll have time to re-aim as we get closer. Okay, it's 2 minutes away. So now the brilliant thing about these maneuver nodes is if you don't know exactly how orbital mechanics works, which I don't, you can mess around with it ahead of time. You know, you can be like, this maneuver's a day away in the game, and normally you'd have to wait till you get there, guess, and waste all your fuel. Whereas now, you can see what works and what doesn't, and basically all you're dragging in those controls is thrusting prograde, retrograde, normal, anti-normal, and whatever the other two are, whose name I forget at the moment. But basically, it's, you know, you've only got 6 directions to thrust, so you're controlling and mixing the thrust in those 6 directions, and it's predicting what's going to happen before you have to do it. Right, so I don't actually have an estimated burn time. That's strange. why do I not have an estimated burn time? Maybe it's really tiny. No, it's just the tiniest kick to that. I mean, I need a delta V of 18 meters per second. Delta V is simply a change in velocity, which is also a change in direction, because velocity and direction are the same thing. Right, so I'm going to speed things up a little bit, and I'll start burning 10 seconds before. There we go, that was quick. So let me remove these maneuver nodes, right hand click on them, and you get that. Okay. See now, my apoapse is still a little high, so we set up another maneuver node, and this will be a retrograde burn to bring this down. Oops. 19216, yes. So we just do this again. I'll time warp a little faster this time. Oh yeah, and because I'm burning retrograde on the opposite side of the planet, I'm almost pointing in exactly the right position already. So, time warp. They've improved the graphics on the planets, or on some of the planets, and Kerbal especially has been given a facelift. There's a lot more detail to the terrain. There's deserts and all sorts of stuff. So we're coming up to the maneuver node. Speed things up a little bit. Oops. Well, okay. 10 seconds before. Now, this is an even smaller burn than the last one, so I'm going to wait until the actual node before I burn. Check the map. Apoapse, periapse. The periapse is 250 meters below the target. The apoapse is 800 meters above the target. That's close enough for Kerbals. So, there we go. We've got our first piece in a nice stable orbit. Now, I don't think it's an eccentric orbit, or is it? Because I want to make sure that it's on the 90-degree line, which is the only other adjustment I really need to make to it. So, the moon orbits on exactly 90. So if you line up the two tracks of its orbit, and then you see how yours compares. Okay, I can see that is a bit of a wobbly orbit, so let me add a maneuver node here, and I want to thrust down. So that's going to straighten my orbit, but it's also going to apoapse 101. Where's the estimated periapse? Okay, it's going to take that a little bit, so suppose I can do that adjustment afterwards. So let's just straighten out this orbital wobble, because that's orbital wobble is what's really going to make it difficult for anything else to rendezvous with this. So make sure I've got my RCS off. RCS, of course, will, because it's actually thrusters, they can mess up your orbits in a way that just rotating on the gyroscopes doesn't. So I'm hoping with these maneuver nodes and so on that I won't have to use MacLeod as much as I was before. I mean, the reason why I was using MacLeod is because I didn't know what direction to point in order to do transfers and maneuvers, but now you can plan them out using this. I can do everything a lot more manually, which I think will be happier for everyone. So that's time warp until this node. There we go. 108, 104. Okay, my orbit's still pretty good. So, get rid of that one. And I think we're done. This thing's up here now. Let's get the solar panels out. That looks good. Oh, now one thing I was going to do is I was going to mount lights on this, and I forgot. That's that's one of the reasons the solar panels were for. Okay, I'll make sure I add lights to the other stuff that comes up. Notice that the solar panels rotate to try and catch the sun as best they can. Although that one down there isn't doing too good a job. If you right-hand click them, it shows you how much energy they're producing at the moment and how much exposure they have to the sun. So, I used quite a bit of fuel doing that manoeuvring. I'm going to have to be a lot more efficient for the future missions, because they obviously have to have enough fuel to not only get up into this orbit, but also rendezvous with this one. And basically they're just all going to dock in, and then I'll get a nice space station. Hee. The Kerbylon station. The project is beginning, finally. I'll see you next time when we will be trying to dock. Bye bye.